Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix 442nd film from 2021. It's the German romantic comedy called The Four of Us, or in German it is Sie Er Wir. It is directed by Florian Gottschick and stars Louis Nitsche, Jonas Nay, Paula Kalenberg, Nilam Farooq, Tim Oliver Schultz, and Janina, Elkin. I'm Jesse, I'm your host. Thank you for joining me today for this Netflix original film. As always, if you haven't seen this one and you're interested in checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because as we go, I am going to spoil this movie, and my voice is struggling to hold up a little bit today, so hopefully we can get through this without too many issues. We always start our show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one, it's about two couples who agree to a partner swap, and then they have to deal with the aftermath. There we go. That's pretty much where we're at with this one. Around the world, what's the film called? So I guess if we tie it in with The Four of Us in relation to this two couples together, four of them, what other titles do we have? So the direct German translation of Sie Er Wir is you, she, he, and we. Okay, that makes sense. In Spanish, it's 4x4. Maybe that's too many people. 4x4 is 16. In Portuguese, it's In the Game of Love. Sure. In French and Korean, it's You, Him, Her, and Us. So very similar to the German title. In Chinese, it's called Love Swap 4. That makes sense. In Greek, The Foursome. In Italian, it's Me, You, Him, and Her. In Japanese, it's He, Her, You, and Me. In Norwegian, it's Non-Binding Commitments. Yeah, not too bad. Russian, it's just called Four. In Turkish, it's You, Me, Them, and Us. And in Ukrainian, it's I, You, He, and She. There we go. So a different take on the four characters in this film, and that's probably what we're going to talk about a lot in this film, are those four characters. Netflix, what's their logline for this film? So it goes like this. Following a partner swap experiment with a no-sex rule, four friends reunite at a beach house to face the unexpected fallout together. There you go. That gives you a little bit further into the film. Filming did take place from the 25th of November to the 18th of December in 2020 in Tettenbull, which is in Schleswig-Holstein, and also in Hamburg, obviously in Germany. This does have some bloopers over the credits at the end. They're just outtakes, realistically, trying to be humorous. I thought they were pretty ordinary, but the final one, just before the film cuts, was sort of interesting because it reminded me of the time that this was made, realistically, during COVID. I'd almost forgotten, because they do a behind the scenes shot and there's like camera person and people wearing face masks, and I guess it sort of makes sense for this narrative too, with such a small cast and the one location of this, almost the whole film, of this beach holiday house as well. This did premiere at the Hamburg Film Festival in Germany on the 2nd of October 2021, before hitting Netflix worldwide on the 15th of October 2021. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? On Rotten Tomatoes, there are only 4 critic reviews, so no consensus. 2 fresh, 2 rotten, so it sits halfway. The audience, a little bit lower, sits at 36%. That's on less than 50 ratings. And if we go to IMDb, sits at a 5.4 on 1,700 ratings, so in the middle range. The same with Letterboxd, a 2.5 out of 5 on 2,000 ratings, but it's been logged by nearly 3,000 people. There we go. Nothing on Metacritic for this one. So that leads into my early thoughts. What did I think about this film? I didn't mind this. I think it is a little bit all over the shop at times, and it has a lot to say about relationships, I guess, with no real follow-up at times, but I think it's still worth a watch. I still don't think it's one that you shouldn't check out. So that's where I'm sitting with this one. The director for this one, Florian Gottschick, 16 directing credits, shorts, TV, film, a range, all in German, so obviously knows how to use a camera as well. The characters, there are these 4 characters we're going to talk about. The 4 characters that they're friends, and they all come together in this house, and they've swapped partners. What can I reveal about them, I guess? And there's going to be spoilers. I have said that. So Janina is the one that I'll talk about the most. So, not the most, but the first one. She's a journalist, and she documents everything about her life through video, through social media, or digitally, I guess. And this plays a key part in the progression of her character, and I guess the progression of the feelings the others have towards her as well. She's in a relationship with this guy called Ben, and she's convinces her best friend Maria to do this swap. So Maria and her partner is Niels, Janina and Ben are together, and they do this swap. And it's clear throughout that Janina is very interested and wanting a promotion at work, and I think constantly stressed about her boss Catherine and her co-worker Anton and their relationship that they're building while she's away on this trip, because they've got an award ceremony, and Anton's always using social media too, and I think she's worried that Anton's going to be the one that takes the promotion and not her. So that's where she's at, and she does quite a deceitful thing at the end of the film, which we'll touch on soon. Ben is Janina's partner. Obviously, he's an actor, or a bit of a failed actor, and he's not really doing much. And it sort of is revealed throughout this film that he can't have kids because he has an undescended testicle. And I think the positive for Ben and for Maria, while she spends time with him while they've swapped partners, is that he talks about his feelings and his fears, which is a real positive thing, and something that Maria is probably struggling with her relationship with Nils. And if we talk about Maria, she's a kindergarten teacher who obviously is with Nils but ends up with Ben, and I think the swap, or the start of the film, sort of starts off with Maria and Ben wanting to reveal to Janina and Nils that they're going to stay together after this swap, and that obviously creates friction straight away. And Maria strives for intimacy and connection, and I think the opposite of that, though, is that she's not too worried about having kids, because we see this in a phone call and some pressure from her mother as well. But there's obviously a connection there with Nils, and Nils is this real estate agent who, to me, was probably, and I guess, if you looked a little deeply at him, there's more to it than that. But while I was watching it, he was the most obnoxious, unrealistic character. He was stiff, his sarcasm throughout, his rudeness to every single character. It made it really hard for me to understand why Maria was with him in the first place. And it's revealed throughout the film, he'd had a former romance with Janina before this swap already, so they're back together again as well. So this guy is obviously making his way through people, and the sarcasm, and I guess there are moments where it's revealed, I guess, that he is able to understand and know what everyone wants and needs. But just that character, it's and especially the way he treats Ben as well, if they're friends, it's quite mean. So I found that a very hard character to connect with or understand. Some scenes. What are the scenes that worked? What didn't work? There's stuff that worked. They use split screen quite a lot at the start with multiple variations on the characters and what they were doing. I thought that wasn't too bad. The first moment that the couples all see each other at the beach house, and they all sort of kiss each other, I was a bit thrown off because I had no idea what the film was actually about and didn't realize they were reconnecting with their partners, because that's what this film was about. So that sort of threw me and confused me, and I was second guessing everything I'd seen. There's this awkward scene around the kitchen bench with chopping and cutting of food and eating, and I thought the sound and the tension was really good. This is after Nils has sort of worked out that Maria and Ben want to stay together, and just that angst from him. There's a moment, Janina's oblivious to this, and then there's a moment where she puts the Bluetooth music on, and the camera sort of tracks her around the house to the table where everyone sits. I thought the camera work was good. And then at that dinner table a little bit later on, there's this staring in the eye experiment for 4 minutes with your partner to understand that intimacy. I thought that was really good, and I was literally timing it to see if they did the full 4 minutes, because the camera work between was great with the characters and the emotion on their faces and in their eyes. And then Janina vomits everywhere, and then Nils takes photos of her, and Ben slips on the vomit. For me, that was quite funny. I know there's a lot of criticism about that scene, but I thought that was a really good scene. There's a moment where everyone's sort of angry with each other, and Ben and Nils end up sharing a bed. They're sort of top and tailing in the bed, and Ben gets out, and then Maria somehow comes in and cuddles Nils, and he wakes up and he's like yelling, and he's like, "Are you crazy?" And then he realizes it's not actually Ben, it's her. So that was quite funny. In the sauna, there's a lot of jokes about Ben's balls, and then him and Nils, they start kissing. I wasn't expecting that, but that was a little bit of a highlight, and ties in, I guess, with the next conversation they have around love and intimacy too. And Ben going off at Janina, he's finally showing all his emotions towards her, and Nils sort of claps at the end saying, "Great performance," because this has been a bit about him being a failed actor too. And then the two boys argue, and Ben whacks him into this glass cabinet, and then because of this conversation about Ben's genitalia throughout the film, he sort of just gets his junk out for all to see, and it sort of just dangles there with the camera from behind him. I thought that was well done. The things that didn't work, Janina doing the pregnancy test was a bit off for the moment, and I sort of really didn't like the twist that this was all faked by her to do a news article, the whole experiment. I really found that not a very good ending. I think the focus on Niels, and I've said this before, I just really didn't like this character. There's a scene where he lights a cigarette at one point and the camera just tracks him, and I was just like, why? I don't care about this character. It's just a pointless scene. And the last thing, Ben freaks out about Janina taking too many sleeping pills, and I guess it's to highlight his worry and his concerns for her still. And the other two, Niels and what's her name, Maria, just stand there almost like in a humorous way watching him, and it just wasn't funny. And then there's this follow-up where they run to the beach looking for her, and the boys argue and fight in the water. It was just all a little bit lame, to be honest. It just didn't play too well. But the themes, the ideas in this film, what's it trying to say? Obviously, this is about relationships. So what it means to be in a relationship and what makes a good relationship is super important too. There's those ideas of sexuality and commitment and fidelity and that shifting nature of love, as well as the importance of honesty and how important that is, especially through communication and open communication at that too. What else did I take away from this film? The voice is nearly done. What else did I take away? I think I liked the little conversations the four had about different relationships and the ideas of love throughout the film. I think it was just a little bit of a shame that they always ended abruptly almost. The conversations ended with an argument or something bad happening between the characters, which didn't really flesh out the conversations other than surface level discussions. So that's just a little side note there. Some questions, some pondering, some thoughts, some ideas. Obviously the rule of this experiment was no sex. That was the one rule, and they all break this rule. So how is this expected to work? Like, how, if everyone's done that, why are they organizing to come away? Like, why can't they just catch up, have a dinner back near their houses instead of going away for a weekend? Because that was always going to lead to some sort of tension. So probably a little bit of a convenient plot point to progress this film. And I guess that ties in that question too. And they ask this in the film, the idea of sleeping with someone, does it always mean being in love with them? Because these characters obviously go their different ways. And we'll probably talk about the ending here, which sort of poses a few questions that could they have had this four-way relationship, because they contemplate that when there's this idea that Janina's pregnant and we don't know who the father is. It's an interesting thought. Or could it just have ended before the flash forward, like leaving them all at the house so the audience is we can open our interpretations and decide for ourselves whether they ended up together, who ended up doing what, because there is this flash forward where Ben's acting, Janina's doing well, journalism career, Maria's pregnant with Niels' child. Like, there's no mention about whether Ben and Janina are still together, and probably not based on their final argument. But I think realistically, none of them are good for each other. It probably would have been better just to end the film without that at the end. So I'm ready to wrap this one up with those ideas in my head. I'm tossing and turning with this film because we give the film a rating out of 5 on this show, and like, this is still a solid film for me to watch. It's probably not one that you can put on in the background and not focus on. You've got to listen to and be engaged with the conversations and the reactions between the characters throughout. And I sort of was sitting here going, I was going to give it a 2.5 out of 5, and then I was like, I'm going to bump it up to a 3 because I still think it was a good film. But then I think about that ending again and how that sat. So do I bring it back down? I'm going to go a 2.75 out of 5. There you go. I've never done that before. We're going a 2.75 out of 5. For me, I just can't. I can't quite move it. I don't know. I'm very torn with this film. So in other words, what I'm saying is it's worth giving it a watch to see what you think. There you go. That's where we're at. We're on socials. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. Give us a follow. Give us a like if you can on those platforms. The question that I wanted to ponder is about the film is this film too liberal for a Hollywood remake? Because I do like films that have one location. You think about 12 Angry Men, you think about Ex Machina, you think about with Seven Años, which we did very early on this show, a great film that used one location. And I even liked Malcolm and Marie, which was another COVID style film with John David Washington and Zendaya. Like, is this film too liberal for a Hollywood remake? Just because of a lot of, obviously, I've said this a lot recently with the European films that we've been covering, but this is a little bit risque maybe for an American audience. So let me know your thoughts in the comments for this episode. Other than that, we are back next week, and we have a vampire thriller film from 2021. I'm excited for this one. It's called Night Teeth, directed by Adam Randall, and it stars Jorge Lendelberg Jr., Debbie Ryan, I believe that's former Disney Channel star possibly, Lucy Fry, Raul Castillo, Sydney Sweeney, Megan Fox, and Alfie Allen. There we go. I don't know anything about this film, but looking at that cast, all I did was look up the cast for the film. I'm excited to check that one out. I hope you are too. Give us a follow, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us 5 stars on your favorite podcast platform, and I will see you next week.